The last time I rode a brute force was 2012. It's ridiculous, I know, but I've been excited to ride this 2024 model because Kawi's done some body work and rider control updates, which we'll talk about more shortly. I know Luke did a full overview of this machine on our YouTube channel not long ago and combed over the entire 2024 brute force lineup. But I wanted to take this LE for a boot and then give you my own thoughts on its performance because, hey, my opinion matters too. At least that's what my mom says. Before I launch into my impressions of the brute force, let's clear up a few points about this updated unit. The base brute force platform, engine, and chassis are all unchanged in this update. However, it did receive new bodywork featuring taller, tougher looking fenders, full LED lighting, a handlebar mounted light pod like the Grizzly and King Quad featuring an all new 4.3-inch full color display with Bluetooth connectivity to your phone and to the Kawi app, handguards, and plastic covers over the traditional steel racks with tons of tie-down points and a combined rack capacity of 265 pounds. Plus, there's this new cover for the winch location that looks really nice in case you decide not to add a winch to your unit. It should be noted that no brute force models come equipped with a winch. Now that we've covered what's new, let's look at some of the features that remain unchanged on the brute force. Every brute force model is equipped with the same CST 25x8 and 25x10 tires wrapped around 12-inch wheels. These are pretty nice looking wheels, and for stock tires, these do what they're supposed to do. I'm just surprised to see Kawasaki not using at least 26-inch tires. Both comparable trims of the Grizzly and King Quad feature 26-inch tires and, not surprisingly, have a bit more ground clearance. I'd like to see the LE using at least 26 inches to remain competitive. Two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive are actuated via this toggle switch on the right-hand side, and diff locker is still actuated via this lever on the left-hand side, which, by the way, is the same lever that was used before I rode this in 2012. I've gone back and forth with my opinion on this lever, and although it is really low-tech and a bit outdated, it does work really well and can quickly be engaged and disengaged just as fast by letting go of the lever. The only time I could see this lever get frustrating is if you had to hold it in for an extended period of time while navigating the terrain you needed it for. Truthfully though, it works fine for short bursts, and although the expectation in this class is the updated and more modern push-button design, if this tech remained a hallmark of the brute force, I personally could just live with it. Dual brake levers operate disc brakes up front and an enclosed wet brake out back. The disc brakes work nicely, but I'm not a fan of this rear brake design and feel it's time to say bye-bye to the enclosed wet brake and make the move to discs at all four corners to maximize stopping power. The brute force uses double wishbone suspension featuring 6.9 inches of travel up front and 7.4 out back, which is slightly less than a 700 Kodiak and Grizzly. The suspension is relatively basic, featuring steel body emulsion shocks suspended by single rate springs and snail cam adjusters. When using the brute force for work-related tasks or slower casual riding, this suspension works fine. However, when you want to turn up the dial for a joyride or tackle more challenging terrain, the suspension gets overwhelmed and I can feel every nuance of the trail. Furthermore, there's too little EPS input for my preference, which combined with the lower grade shocks and springs can make for a more labored ride. That said though, sway bars do an excellent job keeping this ATV planted while cornering aggressively. In the absence of a total suspension overhaul, I would like to see Kawasaki upgrade the shocks and damping profiles and add just a little more input to the EPS to bring it on par with the Grizzlies. Seat height is 35.2 inches, which is about an inch lower than the King Quad and Grizzly, and transitioning from sitting and standing is near effortless. I immediately felt comfortable in the saddle. Ergonomics are near perfect for my size, and the seat is comfortable and actually not too wide considering there's a V-twin housed under it. The 749cc V-twin in the brute force is hands down the most powerful engine in this mid-board Japanese-built ATV category. There's no documented horsepower numbers, but it is every bit of 50 horsepower and just an absolute torque monster. Throttle tip-in is aggressive and should immediately bring a smile to your face, though I do feel like all-day low-speed trail crawling might get a bit tedious, but this isn't where the brute wants to play. There's plenty of power on tap at every squeeze of the throttle as the brute force builds to a decent top end. Seriously, this machine feels like a pure sport disguised as a utility ATV, and it's just another shining example of why its competition should be using twin-cylinder engines in their lineup. Although Polaris and Can-Am seem to be willing to shelve existing technology and replace it with more powerful, more efficient engines, the 4 Japanese manufacturers, including Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki, seem quite content remaining in the mid-bore 40 to 50 horsepower class. So why is this? Price is a big factor, but it's more because this power range is where most of us play on the trails anyways. Plus, you're less likely to experience critical failures and belt blowouts in this power range, which is something that's more likely to happen on a 90 horsepower ATV. This reality further reinforces the Japanese-built ATV's long-standing reputation for reliability. The Brute Force LE is competitively priced in this category at around 12 grand US and 14.4 Canadian, and is the top-tier package in the Brute Force lineup. But we think Kawasaki should offer one more package higher than this with a few more goodies. If not on this LE model, what about an SE like the Grizzly? Offered with 14-inch wheels and more aggressive 26 or 27-inch tires, a winch, and higher-end adjustable shocks. From the comments we're seeing online from all of you, we aren't alone on that thought either. For any gripes I have about the Brute Force, I can't get over how impressive this engine is. And although we really would like to see a complete overhaul of this chassis, the class-leading power out of this V-twin is enough to muscle this ATV into our hearts with brute force.